So this session is going to be about the sales module of xTuple. And we did go over, last week we went over the CRM side of things. And CRM being the corporate relationship management module. And I think, as I mentioned in the CRM session, CRM is basically the collection of all the possible corporate relationships you would have with employees, customers, vendors, etc. So today we're going to talk about the customer side of things. And the first thing we're going to do is add a new customer. So you would go to the sales module, go to customer, and select new. And in this case, I'm just going to go to one that's already been set up, and we'll go through the different items that we looked at. And so you would put in the customer number. Now, Mitch has mentioned that, and this can be pretty much anything, but Mitch has mentioned that the first 3 to 4 letters would indicate the customer. So in this case, C and X, and then a series of numbers. So you just want it to be intuitive, so when you look down the list, it will make sense to select. And when you do the search, you can type in CNX and the number will come up. So that's sort of the basis behind the numbering system. And then you put in the customer name, and then the customer type. So in this case, you just have one type of customer, and basically the customer type, we set that up in the CRM setup, and you can tailor your customers based on a lot of different things, like you have U.S. customers, Canadian customers, European customers, and they have different setup criteria. You can create different customer types. But for now, we'll just have to, so for now, we just set you up with a normal customer type. And so the first part of this would be the billing contact information. So a name of a contact, and this is the billing contact, so this would most likely be an AR person or AP person. And as I mentioned in the CRM side of things, I would always look first to see if that contact name has been set up, and to do that, go to the arrow, the down arrow, and select list. And if there's a contact already set up for this customer, they would appear here. So if there isn't a contact set up for this customer, then you can do, again, the down arrow and select new, and then fill in the customer information. And this is very much like what we did in the CRM training: the name, job title, the phone numbers, faxes, email, web address, street address, any contact information. It's already assigned to this particular customer. Any notes, comments, characteristics, the uses of the contact, and the documents. So it's pretty straightforward and exactly what we did with the CRM training. So once the customer is in, you can also assign a correspondence contact. So billing would be obviously accounting. Correspondence might be customer service. And again, it's the same scenario. Look first to see if there's already someone there. And if not, then select new. And then you can also add a ship to address for this customer. So often you'll have a product that's shipping to several different sites. So you can go in and select the correct, or assign shipping addresses to this customer. So again, you press new, and then you can assign a ship to number, a name, address, and again we go into the contacts. So always look again for a contact first before you add, and then you can identify who the sales rep is for this particular ship to address, commissions, ship zones, and so on. And then when you create your sales order, and we'll see in a few minutes, you can select a ship to address for that customer. So the next tab is settings, and the general settings you can assign. You have to assign a sales rep. So if you don't use sales reps, you should have one that says none. But if you do have a sales rep, assign a sales rep, or maybe inside sales is going to be your version of a none. But you have to have something in the sales rep field. Commissions, default ship via, and this is just a default. Doesn't mean you have to use UPS, but if this customer always wants to use UPS, it's a handy field to put in, and it will pop up on the sales order. You can always change it, but it's just a default. And the shipping form, this is, you can assign particular shipping forms for your customers, so you can set up many different shipping forms if that's something you need, that's required. Certain customers may want a certain paragraph at the bottom of their shipping documents or something like that. And these forms are in the form section, the design section, and they can be customized to a particular customer or just to your company. In this case, you have a standard packing list that's been created, and that will be the default shipping form for this customer. And then if you apply shipping charges, you can assign either the customer pays for shipping, it'll be a customer pickup, or you pay the shipping. And again, with these drop-down menus, quite often you'll see you can edit the list, so you can add things, in this case, shipping charges to this list, or you can customize what's already there. So let's say in this case we'll say customer pays for shipping. You can indicate if the customer, the customer will allow back orders, you can make a partial shipment, and also allowing free-form ship-tos means that you can go ahead and just put any ship-to in there on the sales order. And the same with the allow free-form bill-to. You can put any bill-to. So, generally the bill-to is always going to be the same. So you may not want to check that off, but it's there for you if you want to. And then if there's a preferred selling site, so if you always sell from this site, in this example, say day site, then you could assign it here. Otherwise, you could just leave that blank. So the only real field that has to be populated, I believe, on this site is the sales rep. Now the terms, you can assign a specified billing rate, but most often it's just the general terms here, and these have all been set up. So you would select the terms, any discounts if that applies, and you can indicate here if they're in good standing, on credit warning, or on credit hold. And then if they use purchase orders, then if you check this this box, then it will flag you when you're creating your sales order that you must put the purchase order in. The balance method is balance forward, so you for your billing purposes, and you can set a credit limit on this customer. So if they exceed their credit limit, then you'll have a warning that will say, they've exceeded their credit limit when you go to ship a product. And the credit rating, I think this is just a text field. So some of these fields are text fields in that sense that they'll show up on the sales order screen. I don't believe that there'll be any, it won't stop you from creating a sales order if their credit rating hasn't been checked. You can place someone on credit warning, so you won't be allowed to ship something. You can place open sales orders on credit hold when credit limit is exceeded, so you want to check that if that's something that you want to do. So open sales orders would be placed on hold, on credit hold, in this case if you check this off. So these are things that you can indicate for each customer. And then taxes, if there's taxes that apply, you would select the appropriate tax zone here. If there's no taxes that apply, you just leave that blank. You can assign characteristics to the customer, and the CRM side of things, this is, again, we went and talked about CRM last week, but this just gives the contacts and activities that you have, and it comes from the CRM module. You can look at the sales information here, so, you know, total backlog, last year's sales, year-to-date sales, open balances, etc. You can look at any quotes that have been generated, and you can look at any sales orders that have been generated to date. And you can, if you check this box, you'll see the closed as well. And in this case, and I believe also with the quotes as well, just click on query, and that's where you see sales orders. So in this case, I hit query, there's no sales orders for this particular customer yet. The accounting tab will show you the debits and credits and both. So you'll see invoices, credit memos, debit memos. You can select closed, unposted, or only items with incidences. So if this customer has, if an incident has been created to this customer regarding the accounting side of things, you could check this box and you would see it. And you can print your statements for the customer here as well. That'll be something we'll get into on the accounting side. And any documents that have been assigned to this customer and any remarks or comments that you want to put against this customer. So basically, that's the customer setup. And again, all this information would then also appear in the CRM side of things. So they would be on the CRM. You would see this customer and the boxes. If you remember from last week, there were boxes above, and there would be a check mark beside customer. Okay, any questions about the customer setup? Okay. So now we're going to enter a sales order. So again, I mentioned earlier in the manufacturing side, you can start the process by selecting the icons to the left. It kind of walks you through this process of that you would normally follow for sales. So if you had a prospect, I don't think you're using prospects, but if you did, you could enter a prospect in there, assign it, or create a new customer, which you just did. You can take a look at your backlog. So if we click on backlog, and we can assign backlog based on date and site. So we'll do all sites, and we just hit query. And you can see that these are your backlog items. So these are all orders that need to be shipped. And you can do it by, well, you only have one customer, type of customer, but if you had more than one, you could do this by type of customer. So this is where you would see your backlog items. And when you right-click on that item, you can look at the inventory availability for that sales order. So you can take a look and see is there inventory available to ship this order. So these are the items on the order, and you can see that there's nothing available yet. So this would not be an order you'd want to be shipping. If you right-click on it on the sales order, you can edit it from here, you can view it from here, or you can delete it. And you can also print the packing list. So if you determine that there is inventory available, you can print the packing list right from here. So back to our flow chart here, that's looking at backlogs. We just looked at inventory availability, but you could do that right from here as well by clicking that. And this is all of the items that are on backlog, and it's indented because this is the sales order number. Oops. Again. This is the sales order number, and these are the items within the sales order, and you can see the availability here. If it's in red, that means it's not available. So. And Now, we're not going to get into the shipping side of things, but if you wanted to maintain a sales order, maybe make changes, you can go into the sales side, sales order, list the open sales orders, go in, just double click on the sales order, and you'll see the sales order pops up. And you can make changes. So let's create a sales order here first. So we went to sales, sales order, and new. And we can do that again using the flow chart. The first thing you would do is select the customer. So we'll go from the customer list, and we'll use this customer that we were looking at earlier. Now, what will happen here is you should see the defaults come up that we set up when we set up the customers. So in this case, we didn't have any ship tos. So if I did have, I could drop down the list and pick them from here. So I can then go in and type whatever ship to address I want. It picks up the terms, the outside rep, FOBs. You can put an FOB in there if you like, the ship via, which is the default. If you don't want UPS, you can select from what's already been entered into the setup. And a shipping zone if you're using shipping zones. And then you can indicate if this must be shipped complete. So if it must be shipped complete, you're not going to be able to issue material to that order unless all the inventory is available. And if there was a billing address here, you could just copy it over. If it's the same ship to address as the billing address, you can just hit this copy to, and it would enter the same billing address. I'm going to pick a different customer because if we've got one here that has an address. And here's the ship to. So we've got a ship to address here for this particular customer, and we've got a bill to address, and the ship to address is coming up here. We've got accounts payable information, we've got customer contact shipping. Now we can go ahead. Now, actually, if you select the more, you'll see you can put a customer PO in here if that's required. You can say what type of order, if it's on hold, if it's a credit hold, a shipping hold, or a packing hold, the site that it's shipping from, and the sale type. In this case, it's a customer sale type, so it didn't come from the internet or a sales rep. And so let's take a look now. We'll enter a line item. So you click on the line item tab, click new. A little bit slow here. And I can select item numbers for this customer from my list or do the search. Select this first one. And again, I can select make or buy items from the list. And I can select which site I would like to ship this from or draw it from. If there's a customer number, we can enter that. Substitutes as well. The quantity. And the price list has come up here. We're going to talk about price lists in a bit, but you can hit this ellipse button and it will take you to the price list. So if there's you've set up a pricing schedule, say if a customer buys more than 100 or more than 1,000, you can set different price breaks, and you can select them from just by hitting this ellipse button. This price list window will pop up, and you can select the different price structure. And the unit of measures there, and then you can select the scheduled dates, promise date, And now if you check this under the supply tab, check the show availability, you'll see what is available from an inventory point of view, from a supply order point of view, or actually you can create a supply order here. Some of these things are just not valid for the site yet. You can also create item sources, or select an item source, I should say, if it's a purchased item, and then the substitutes for that item. And this is the inventory on hand, so you could see if there was inventory in there, you would see what is available. You can see the history, the cost history of the item, the sales history of the item based on dates. Characteristics, unit cost, so this is the pricing detail for this item. If it's taxed, notes for the sales order, comments, and then the accounting side of things. So if you wanted to, most often this is already set up, so it automatically would go to particular sales accounts that have been set up on the sales side of the setup portion of xTuple. But if for some reason this particular item needs to go to a different account, you can also assign that. So we can save this. Now we can see that that was my problem there. I didn't select the site. So you can see here that nothing is available. So you must not have your inventory in yet. But you can save this sales order, or save this item on the sales order. And you can just continue adding your sales items as you go along. If that's the only item, we're going to close that up. And you can see that it's been created here. And then we can save the sales order. And now the window doesn't close, so you can then go in and add another sales order if you need to. If you don't, you can just cancel out of there. And so now if we go back into sales order, and we open, you'll see our new sales order. I hope we'll see our new sales order. I believe that was the Yes, David was just asking if there is no price list, can the price be entered manually? And yes, it can. Just going to find this is it here. I believe this is our sales order that we just created. So I just double clicked on it and it opens up. So now what you want to do now is you may want to print it. So you can right click and you can print a packing slip. You can print the sales order. You can actually issue it to shipping from here as well. So what we'll do is we'll print the sales order form. And what that means is that you can have, again, as I mentioned earlier, you can have different forms for particular sales orders. So if you press the print sales order form, you can select the report that you want to use, and in this case, it's popping up as sales order acknowledgement. If you had other, let's say you wanted to just print the actual sales order itself, you could just print it as well if it's in the list. And this is all, the sales order forms are set up in the setup side of sales. So if you have different forms, Mitch can, or myself, we can help you with adding them to the forms for sales setup. And then you would print the sales order, and I'll just print this to my desktop. Take a look at it. And I'm hoping that this is going to be support here. And there's your sales order acknowledgement that's been created for you. And these forms can be customized. It doesn't have all the information you need. Okay, so any questions about creating sales orders? Okay. I'm just going down the list of things. So let's go to the price list. I'm going to close up a few windows here. Okay. So the next area we'll talk about price list, and that again is under the sales menu under pricing. And you can set up pricing schedules, as I mentioned. And to do that, you would go in and select new. And maybe this is a sale that you're having or something like that. You just call it whatever you'd like to call it. And when it's effective, so maybe it's effective for a month. So the end of the month, let's say. And then you can select new, and then if there's particular item numbers that would be involved with the sale, you can select them from the list again. And for quantity break, so say after 100, the price is $10. You get the idea. So you can set them up like this, and then you can create the pricing schedule and then use that when you do the ellipse button. If this is the item that you're putting on your sales order, you hit the ellipse button, this would appear and show you the different price breaks. So that's one part of the pricing list. And you can go in and look at the item list price by item. And we'll take this item. So this has been set up, and where this is coming from, I don't know if you remember on the item master screen, but there was an area, if we indicated that we were selling this item, you could indicate the selling price. And that is building your price list. So that's where this is coming from. And we'll go back into pricing again. You can update the price list. So you can select all the categories. This would be every item, and update the prices by a percentage. So if your prices have increased by 10%, you would put 10 in there, hit update, and all your price lists would be updated by 10%. Or you can do it by a fixed amount. And you can also do it by product category. So it's really important to make sure your product categories are something that are relevant to your business. So you could select different types. So say all your accessories could be updated by a price percentage, or all your standard parts could be updated by a price percentage. So that's just a quick way of updating pricing. And also you could enter in a pattern. And I believe this can be by descriptions. So that's a way of updating your prices. And you can update a price. Oh, we just did that. Pricing schedules we've talked about. You can update your pricing schedules doing the same sort of thing. So using product categories, item groups, and items, and then look at your schedule, your pricing schedules that I showed you earlier would show here, and you can select them and update the prices by percentage or fixed amounts. So there's a lot of different ways you can update your pricing schedules. And then pricing schedule assignments would be assigning them to a particular customer. So if you have a particular customer that you want to assign a pricing schedule to, you can go in and select by customer, by ship to patterns, customer types, etc. And then you would go in and select the pricing schedule. I should have saved that last pricing schedule that I was going to create there, but I didn't. Mitch isn't on the call, actually, David. So I'll just take a look at your... okay, the question is about the sales order, purpose of the sales order process, and David is asking to explain the purpose of that because you're not currently using sales orders. And really, the purpose of a sales order, there's a couple of good reasons to have sales orders. The first being that if you're running an MRP, if you're using MRP and using MRP to schedule your material, your work orders and purchase orders, if you have sales orders entered into xTuple, MRP is, when you do an MRP run, it's going to take a look at your demand. So the sales order is creating the demand for the MRP run. So immediately once the MRP run is done, the system will create the planned purchase orders or the planned work orders that will satisfy that sales order if there's no inventory already in stock. And then likewise plan inventory to build the work order or create planned purchase orders to purchase product to satisfy the work order. So the sales order is going to drive the demand for inventory. And that's, you know, really a really good reason why you want to make sure you create work orders so you won't be caught short making a shipment to your customers. And the other side of it too is that the sales order, you won't be able to ship anything unless you have that sales order. So that's going to drive your shipping. So when you want to ship product to the customer, you're going to need that sales order to ship the product to the customer. So any questions about creating the sales orders or purpose of the sales orders?
My question is very high level, and maybe we can't answer it, but it's the sales team is using Salesforce.com, and do we have to duplicate information from Salesforce.com into xTuple? Can xTuple download from Salesforce.com? And maybe that's a question for Mitch, but
yeah, that may be a question for Mitch. Like, I'm not.
I'm sort of thinking we're going to be duplicating effort here.
Yeah. Are you using Salesforce to create sales orders or to manage the customer?
Well, we're going to use Salesforce to maintain the customer contact history. I think also it's going to be where the guys are going to be tracking their sales. I think it's going to be whether it's going to be keeping track of their sales orders.
Okay. Yeah, that might be a good question for Mitch.
I need to get Mitch involved. Mitch, how's the interface?
I didn't quite catch that.
I need Mitch to explain to me or to us what Salesforce is responsible for versus what xTuple is responsible for.
Right. Yeah, and I think that is a good question for Mitch to answer. I'm not sure. So unfortunately, Mitch isn't on the call right now, but would you like me just to have him contact you about that?
No, we'll be seeing you.
Okay. Okay.
I got my list of questions for Mitch.
Okay, great. Any other questions about the creating of a sales order? Okay, so a couple more things to go over. I mentioned about the icons down the side here and following the flow chart. So we've sort of done that here. We've looked at some of this is going to relate to which we're not going to cover today. The other thing that you can do now, if we go to the CRM side, and this is an area that we raised last week, there is this icon called Customer Workbench, and this can also be found in the module, but this is a really good tool to use if you're managing your customers. And if I click on Customer Workbench, it's going to show me information regarding sales here. So we'll pick a customer. I'm going to hope that there's information here. But if I look at the Sales tab, I can see sales information, quotes, and orders. And it's really a good tool if you're just wanting to take a look at what's going on with a particular customer. I find that I use this a lot, not only for sales, but for accounting as well. And, you know, just any information that you need to for a customer will be on the Customer Workbench, and that's in the CRM module. And then the last area we're going to cover is just a few reports here. You can run a summarized backlog report or your backlog report here, query, and this is the report. We took a look at this earlier, but this can be printed if you need to. You can also look at sales analysis as well here, and this may go back to your Salesforce question that you might want to talk to Mitch about, but you have sales history here. I'm not sure what we'll see. We probably won't see any sales history because nothing's been built yet, but as you go along, you would see the customers and information regarding that customer with your sales history. So, any questions about the sales module at all? No? Okay, well, that's it, folks. Thanks for coming to the training. And we may talk to somebody tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.